by Vietnam, and he was given the opportunity to be released early. And he turned it down because he thought it would be dishonorable to leave before his fellow servicemen and women. And when I first got here,
there were no women there, but yeah.
Okay, man, you're right. When I first got here, McCain hated my guts, and he actually referred to me and Rand as wacko birds.
I remember.
I have up on the shelf, I have a baseball cap that a grassroots supporter gave me with a picture of Daffy Duck and labeled wacko birds, which I liked and laughed when. But when he did that, I went to the Senate floor and I gave a speech praising John McCain. And it was the taking out Iran's military leadership, taking out their nuclear capability. And I'll point out, look, if you look the first term, I am hard-pressed to think of a single foreign policy decision Donald Trump made. Tucker, you've become one, and I don't mean it as a slur.
No, I'll be real with you. We just don't want war. And if that means we're isolationists, then I mean, that's a mischaracterization of what the word isolationist means. Because we're not saying that we shouldn't get involved no matter what. A real isolationist, we'd be like, bro, we don't even care if NATO gets attacked. We don't care if none of our allies gets attacked. We're not getting involved. That's isolationist. Actually, if we were real isolationists, we'd cut all of our allegiances right the hell now. I mean, or these guys would be speaking for that if they was real isolationists, because they wouldn't believe in America being connected with any country in any alliance in any way, shape, or form. So if these guys are real isolationists, that's how they would be speaking. But they're only speaking in this manner of isolation when it comes to Israel. And for some reason, because you talk about separating ourselves from Israel, now you are a full-blown isolationist, even though you don't want to get out of NATO, you don't want to break alliances with, I don't know, Canada or anything like that. No, misuse of the word.
Just another politician's way of dancing around the flowers.
Exactly.
If I can make you question yourself, then I'm winning.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, am I an isolationist? It's like, do I not want to get into no conflicts? It's like, come on now. Come on now, guys.
Like, no, we don't need to get involved in this conflict because, again, there's no reason or rhyme to this.
Exactly. Now, if they attack us and they want to come at us, then okay. I mean, trust me, all of us isolationists is going to turn interventionists real quick. Babies, death to America. Shoot, I mean, Islamic extremists. Yeah, I mean, it's all bad language. Just let's be real. I mean, you don't say nothing good about these guys, and I don't expect y'all to, and I really don't want y'all to. But I mean, when you radicalize them just so much, it kind of makes us have that, like, I don't know, that skepticism.
Yeah, like, exactly.
I'm like, all right, my man. Like, you're trying to sell it too hard at this point. Like, when you hop on here every day calling these guys straight villains and this and that, bringing up old stories and stuff, old times where they've attacked our troops. And I'm just like, all right, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to pull on heartstrings here. And that's a leftist move, Fox. But
yeah, exactly.
Man, but I get the play, though. It's just that I don't think that most of Mac is not going for it.
No, 90% of the people that are actually like paying attention and looking and going, hey, why are you using the same methods that they did in the Iraq war, just different words?
Yeah, it's like, and it's 20 years ago. I mean, like, let's be real. A lot of us are old enough to remember.
Exactly. It's like you can't swindle us. We're most of us are actually paying attention more now than ever because a lot just weren't paying attention. And it's like, okay, now that we're now paying attention, we're starting to go, wait, let's pick this apart and start look deeper.
Yeah, let's break it down. But then hold on, you're an isolationist. You're an anti-Semite. It's like, what?
Just like when did the right start using the left's mentality?
Exactly. Only when it comes to this warmongering stuff. This is the only time where I see the right literally takes on characteristics of the left when it is wartime, or when we are close to a situation where it could be war.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, ugh.
Man, like, Putin's a bad guy. We must go and bomb Putin. We must help our fellow Ukrainian. I mean, that was their first ploy, but except they was using the liberals for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Neocon neoliberals is like they both want war, but one side is gonna try to pull what? Both sides pull emotional strings. It's just that one side just has, like, I mean, a hard line or hard lining on it. I would say that they're hardliners.
that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump. And then, aren't you horrified?
I want to see what they do.
Oh, so you got a wait and see attitude on ISIS now?
On the government of Syria, they are not actively, that I am aware of, trying to murder Americans. And that's a real dividing line. Are you trying to murder Americans or not?
I'm just saying it's a little weird that we waged this war against ISIS and now they're running a country in the Mediterranean. I think that people would be very, very upset about that, but you don't seem very...
I mean, I'm kind of upset about it. I remember watching the ISIS videos when they was beheading reporters. I remember watching the gruesome version of that. And if you're asking S.E.T, bro, you were a kid. What were you doing watching that? Bro, mind your business. But yeah, even I've seen those videos and they would cut the guy's head off and place it on top of the body and just walk off. And then they have some Saudi music playing in the damn background. Bro. And now these guys are leading a country? Like, really? Crazy.
By the way, did you agree with Trump taking out al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS?
I'm totally opposed to ISIS. And what I care about is results, actually. And if... it's not. Okay. You don't know anything about Iran.
That is, you know what? That is crazy. But shout out. We're going to go all the way to the right now. I mean, all the way to the right with this guy, Nick Fuentes, as he sits there and explains why you kind of should know this.
And the first thing I'll say about Tucker pressing Ted Cruz on the population, you know, I see a lot of people saying, and this was Ted Cruz's reply, they said, well, what does it matter what the population of Iran is? That was Ted Cruz's rebuttal. So Ted Cruz is advocating that the United States overthrow the regime in Iran and go to war. I mean, we're bombing Iran. Make no mistake about it. That is what they are pushing. They are pushing the United States dropping bombs on Iran. Iran will attack us. And then we may be put in the position of overthrowing their government, which will have massive ramifications. And I see defenders of Ted Cruz, including Ted Cruz himself, they're saying, well, why do we need to know what the population is? Bruh. So what? Did Luke Skywalker need to know the population of the Death Star before they blew it up in Star Wars? And I will answer this ridiculous rebuttal for anybody that needs to hear it. Of course, the size of the population, and we're not talking about down to the single digits, the exact number of people that live there, but having a general idea of the amount of people and what kind of people they are and how diverse it is and what their religion is and what the border areas are like, what the surrounding countries are like.
Yep.
This is all about the...
Let's be real. You would want to know that. You'd want to know all the ideology that's in there. You'd want to know the different races. You want to know how they think and all that good stuff so you can understand how they might react to a regime toppling. You might want to know about every other people, the ideology that they have or different or that they share. You might want to know that if you're going to go start bombing the shit out of them and then, you know, toppling their leadership. It's like, come on, like this is stuff we might want to know. And then we also might want to take into the account the population size of this fallout, because this isn't like Afghanistan. Like, guys, I mean, this is Iran, 90 million people strong, falling into dissent. Like, that could be bad. And who knows how many radical terrorist group that will create? Who knows?
Complications. This is all the demographic information that is necessary to understand what the actual outcome of this conflict will be. Of course, it matters how big the population is. If you have a country like China with 1 billion people, overthrowing their government is a huge deal, because a country with 1 billion people falling into chaos is a massive problem. You're talking about instability, which could cross over into other countries and destabilize borders. You're talking about a high casualty count of people that would die if supply chains are disrupted, if people can't get food or medicine. You're talking about a very difficult prospect of replacing the regime, earning the allegiance of the people, and maintaining some semblance of stability. There's a question of sectarian.
I mean, and let's be real, man. Implanting a leader never really works. That's why Haiti's in the condition it is now. We took out a leader. They implanted one that they like. The Haitian people revolted against that leader because the leader wasn't for the Haitian people. It was for the people that implanted them, that implanted that guy there. And the Haitian people ended up revolting against them. The guy fled the country, and now they're eating people in the street. It's like crazy, huh?
Arianism doesn't break up into multiple pieces. If you have a very large country with a large population with diversity, these are all complicating factors. These are all confounding variables that are going to influence the outcome of the conflict and actually how the conflict plays out in real time. So I see people saying, well, you know, what does it matter how many people are living there? It just goes to show they know nothing. They know nothing about conflict. They know nothing about grand strategy. They know nothing about international relations. Those are literally the first questions you need to ascertain. In particular, the relative population tables of one country versus another. It's a far bigger deal to topple Iran than Iraq because Iran has 3 times the population. And what else does that mean? If Iran has a much bigger population than Iraq, it means they have a bigger reserve to pull from for soldiers. Why does it matter what the ethnic mix is? Because that determines what kind of provisional government you're going to establish.
Good point.
It also determines whether there'll be fallout in the neighboring countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkey, Iraq, particularly with the large Kurdish minority, large minority of Turkish people. Ooh. All of these things are absolutely essential to even begin to understand what we're getting involved in Iran. Once you drop those bombs, you never take that back. And you set America down a course. We are entangled with this country. And it sets off a chain reaction, a domino effect across the entire region, just as it did before, just as it did in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, in every one of these countries, the big ones and the small ones, the ones with the larger population and a smaller one. Every time it happens, there's these kinds of ramifications.
You're wrong.
And you need to understand those things. You will never be able to predict precisely how a war plays out or what the outcome will be. But before making that irreversible decision to drop those bombs and get entangled and trigger the chain reaction, you have to have the humility and the respect of history and of mankind to understand exactly what you're getting into. And so for Ted Cruz not to understand the basics, he didn't even have a guess. Forget about, he didn't know it was 92 million or 90 million.
I mean, here's the thing. When these pro-Israel guys, you know, break down Israel, they know how much people is in Israel. They know all the cities. They know the culture. They know how many Palestinians, the percentage of Palestinians, the percentage of Israelis. But you guys can't do that for Iran. So you guys know what you're destabilizing. Because if we let Israel go and get destroyed, we know what we're giving away. We know the culture that's there. We know what the damage that will be done. But y'all don't do that for other countries is a bit, I don't know, it's a bit disingenuous and kind of disrespectful. Maybe you should start caring about other cultures. And not over your own, of course, but, you know, when it comes to these I'll say geopolitical matters.
He didn't even have a guess. It might be forgivable if he said, oh, I don't know, 80 million. If he was off by 10 million, that would have been forgivable. He doesn't have the slightest clue.
I mean, he didn't even try to throw a guess or anything. I was just like, bro, you don't even know at all? Like, you could have, bro, he could have said like 60, 80. I'd have been like, all right, you're off by 30. That's still a lot, but I'm gonna be real with you. At least you know there's a substantial amount of people there.
About any of it. Forget about the population. If you don't know that number, he doesn't know anything about any of it. Can he name the population, the top exports? Can he name the terrain? The size of the military, the structure of the military, of the government?
Nope.
And by the way,
but let's be honest, we're big dog America. So, I mean, what do we care? We'll just blow it all up.
Tells you something which might be fairly obvious, but it's worth pointing out. Not only are these people advocating for a war, which they do not understand, advocating for a war against a country and a regime, which they do not understand. Obviously, this is extremely irresponsible and reckless, and it means you can't trust them because they don't even know what they're talking about. But maybe what is obvious but needs to be pointed out is that they have no idea what they're talking about. And so in a limited sense, you could say that's reckless for this decision. But what does that say? There are 100 U.S. senators, bicameral legislature, 50 states, 2 senators from each state. It's a statewide office, meaning they represent millions upon millions of people. There's only 100 of them in America. It's the upper chamber of the government. This is like the House of Lords in the United Kingdom. This is supposed to be like the aristocracy. This is supposed to be, if there's anything that is elite in society, it is the United States Senate. What does it say about our country that a U.S. senator from one of our largest states, by the way, Texas, and a strategically important state, doesn't seem to know anything? Forget about the people that you get your news from. Forget about the billionaires that run our economy. The U.S. senators that are tasked with passing the laws that govern all of it, they don't know basic information.
I mean, he ain't wrong. He's not wrong. And you would think you just looked this all up before you just want to steamroll into, Iran. You would think. But like I said, they don't really care. Strongest military in the world. That's for other countries to do. Now, look, I know I'm a guy on the right, but I think we're kind of shifting blame a little bit too much towards Biden for the whole Afghan mess up. Like, I get what you're saying about, well, that's when Biden saw the opportunity, but we can't sit here and pretend like that NATO factor wasn't a glaring thing right there. And he said that was his red line. So I get what you're saying, but that Afghanistan pullout, that had nothing to do with our military force and what we do to Putin if, we were actually serious about, stopping him. Like, the Afghanistan pullout, I believe, had nothing to do with that. But, I mean, okay.
The way Biden did that was disastrous, and I think our enemies looked to the commander-in-chief and said, this president is weak. And when that withdrawal was so disastrous, I said publicly at the time, the chances of Putin invading Ukraine have just risen tenfold.
Right.
But secondly, and this is critically important.
Well, I agree. That was awful, the withdrawal.
And it was a major cause of our enemies all said, hey, this president is weak. And so it invited, and by the way, look.
But I'm still trying to relate that to how did that start? How? It's like, all right, so he's seen us pull out of Afghanistan, and he just said, you know what? F it. I'm just going to take Ukraine. Then why didn't China go for Taiwan then? If that's the case, all that should have snapped off at the same time if that was the true belief of the American government, or at least the American army. And our withdrawal from somewhere, like I said, was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And Biden should be ashamed. The whole Biden administration should be ashamed of it. But I don't think that was a major influence in why Putin invaded Ukraine. Like, and that's just my personal opinion on the matter. Yeah, didn't it go from a pro-Russian leadership? Like, the guy was pro-Russian. The old leadership of Ukraine was a pro-Russian guy who was okay with Putin, who said, I'm not going to go into NATO because Putin's going to act. And they was cool. They was real cool. Then he got, overthrown, paid for protests by the CIA or in the Obama administration. And now we got Zelensky, who is an anti-Putin guy who wants to join NATO because he's, anti-Putin. And here we are today. So we can't pretend like that wasn't a factor. We kind of didn't paint the situation of today.
Let me finish telling. I told you we'll take lots of digressions in a second. Let me finish telling the narrative. 2015, Putin began building.
Oh yeah, you telling the narrative, all right. The narrative you selling us on to try to get us to be so into the war of Ukraine, and we should be able to send more taxpayer dollars. Honestly, it's like you're damn near trying to get us to put boots in the ground on Ukraine at a certain point.
Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream
kind of cooking them on the point, low key. It's like, yeah, I mean, bro, you kind of cooking you on that point.
Germany to have cheap energy.
Because it empowers Russia. And I believe in making our enemies weaker and our friends stronger.
Has blowing up Nord Stream made Germany stronger?
I mean, can you prove that or not? Can you prove that they just automatically cheat in their elections? Can you prove it? No. But for some reason, mainstream media or any media in general has built that distrust of anything that's Russian. Bro, you put anything Russian next to anything, you automatically have distrust of it. Russian pencil, now you side-eyeing the pencil. Russian phone, now you side-eyeing your phone. It's like you put Russia next to anything, and it's like the conditioning that the media has put us through that, well, now it automatically comes under crazy speculation, wild conspiracy speculation that you can't substantiate.
Not being dependent on Russia has made Germany stronger.
Do you think Germany is stronger now than it was 4 years ago?
I think
tripled their energy prices. Like, let's be real. We definitely did that to them.
I'm focused on America's interest. I don't want Russia stronger because I believe Russia is our enemy. You and I disagree on that.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's smash that up. All right. Well, Israel's such a great ally, and so is Russia. They're also an ally too. So you're okay with dysfunctioning one ally, but you would never do that to Israel, though. So I would ask them, can you explain that? So you have okay with bringing financial turmoil to Germany, but would you ever do that to Russia if it was in Americans' interest? I'm just asking.
Talk about that. But I want our enemies weaker. I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I want our enemies weaker. I don't want Europe dependent on Russia. I don't want Putin rich with oil and gas revenues and able to invest in his military and pose a threat to America. So the sanctions legislation that I authored, it passed. Putin stopped building Nord Stream 2 literally the day that President Trump signed my sanctions legislation into law. He signed it.
And guys, trust me, I do agree. Russia is one of our adversaries, but it doesn't mean everything they do is in falsehood without us being able to prove it. So even though they had an election where a pro-German guy won, I mean, that just doesn't mean it was a Russian-led election. And all of a sudden it gets overthrown. They have another one that, like I said, when you're lining up, you just can't sit there and say that, oh, well, that's because Keelan got voted in because he was pro-Russian. It was Russia-led. It's like, come on, man. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. Like anything Russian that you're going to try to discredit because it got the word Russia in it.
If I remember right, at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, Putin stopped construction at 6:45 p.m. So the sanctions legislation worked, and it killed the pipeline. The pipeline lay dormant for over a year, just a hunk of metal at the bottom of the ocean. Joe Biden came into office. He was sworn in on January 20th, 2021. Another dollar.
Do you think
coming from
Zelensky
Congress.
wants to end the war?
Well,
I think
that and NATO has secretly joined the fight as well. So now it's like a 2-on-1.
Zelensky has behaved horribly. I think his Oval Office meeting will go down in history as the worst Oval Office meeting of any leader that has ever come to the Oval Office. I think he behaved like a pompous ass. And I think he is unrealistic. I think Zelensky spends his time with Nancy.
Man, look, Brother Lincoln, I ain't say that. Ted Cruz said it. Like, I kind of agree with you, but on like, but I still wouldn't have done it because, like, all right, make the cost too high for Russia. I mean, the cost was too high for us at the end of the day. So let's be real here. Let's be real. We drove up a bit of inflation off some of our foreign aid. So, and Russia's still fighting to this day. Still fighting to this day. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. And if I was him, I'd have sat back and be like, I don't want Russia to lose. But should I jump into this? Are we even going to bear any fruit for real if I'm just throwing hella money to beat a superpower? I don't know. I just wouldn't have done it. Just common sense. My common sense just said, yeah, I feel like if we just let this string out, don't give him no help, it'll end within a week. But like I said, he just wanted them to lose. He just wanted Russia to lose, and he was willing to sacrifice about a million Ukrainian lives to do so because he wanted Russia to lose. So about $350 billion in, a million lives, just because he wanted Russia to lose. Remember that.
Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the New York Times, and he believed he was going to the Oval Office as a resist figure. And I think he's doing real damage to his country right now.
You described him many times as a hero.
Agree.
Expecting that, and I agree with the president.
Good. Well, I appreciate your taking all this time.
Sure.
And I know you didn't mean it. When you called me those names. Thank you, Senator.
And now let's get over to some reactions. Shout out Candace Owens because she's going to go ahead and be the first of one of our reactions.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel.
Of course, Candace would have a complete offense to this part. I already know.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who
already
bless
knew.
Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel.
What you mean? I seen a video of a rabbi saying that, and it was the most wildest spin the way this rabbi spun it. But he says that, Christianity is built on worshiping a Jew. That's completely wrong. Christians worship all Jews because we're all suffering. We all died for the sins. And then I was just like, whoa there. Okay, hold on. I don't think all Christians are riding with you on that belief, my rabbi. But yeah.
And
what does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist. And
because somehow, some way, man, God just wrote down in the book and say, you know what, man, 1948, man, thus forward, everybody is supposed to protect Israel and serve Israel, and you'll be blessed for it. Somehow, some way, they just knew that in the Bible, huh?
He's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
It is.
And I'm really happy he said that, because when you hear it, you realize how ridiculous it sounds. Even if you're not following the theology, if you don't identify as a Christian, you realize that you have a senator that is sitting across saying that his number one reason, he didn't say one of the reasons, he said my number one reason that I support Israel is because the Bible commands me to do so. And just so you know, the Bible does not command, and this is what Tucker Carlson is getting to in that clip, it absolutely does not command you to support the modern state of Israel. Like Genesis is pointing to the modern 1948 created state of Israel, and you must support it, despite the fact that it is very much involved in what can only be described as demonic behavior since its creation, right? And so you're going to ignore every other biblical passage. You're going to misinterpret this one. It's a dispensationalist heresy, which was factually funded by the World Zionist Congress. And we can do another episode on that as I present to you guys all of the evidence that what it guided the notations. This really stems from the Schofield Bible and was overseas, and alleges that he wrote all of these notes in the Bible and is telling people how to read their Bibles. The first time that notations were put underneath the passages. So this is what Genesis says, and this is what it means. And this is how this heresy arrived in America. Then somehow this guy is able to, becomes the most printed book, and Oxford Press gets behind it because like a random pastor, you get the idea here. It was very much a funded effort to have Christians misunderstand the Bible. And Ted Cruz is one of these Christians. And so he says this is number one reason that he supports what they're doing. So he is willing to support the criminality of Benjamin Netanyahu because he's just in the land of Israel. That's he's saying it's the nation state of Israel. By that argument, if suddenly the current Israelis in Israel all left and we put in a bunch of Iranians, then he would say the same thing because it's a place, right? So Ted Cruz would say, my Bible commands me, I will be blessed. I bless those who bless Israel. He's talking about a place, a physical place, and anybody could be in there and he would back it. It's an absolute nonsense for him to suggest this. And like I said, it's also a theological disaster, and it's so important for people to learn the history, the truth.
I mean, Israel could have been in Madagascar. He'd have still said that.
History of the Schofield Bible and this sort of modern dispensationalist belief, which has been so toxic to our foreign policy and has been pushed in large part. It's even the hyphening of Judeo-Christian values. I'm a Christian. I'm not Jewish. I am a Christian. My values are Christian. And frankly, you should believe that a country which has involved itself, as Israel has, in blackmail, in murder, in bombing children, in murdering and starving women and children to get what it wants, the deception. And I mean, you could talk about it on a widespread level. You could talk about it on a historical level. You could talk about it on a molecular or a personal level. It is like a requirement to support Zionism. You just have to lie. You have to lie like all the time. I mean, they are just every day pushing this idea that I'm funded by Qatar. Not a shred of proof. It's completely false. It is untrue. And they say it every day because they have no other arguments. All they have to do is keep hoping that people like Senator Ted Cruz, especially if they're being funded by AIPAC, will completely misinterpret the Genesis and believe that no matter what, they have to support the policies of Bibi Netanyahu, which not even the Israelis support, right? They don't even support him. They were protesting against him in wartime. So that's very, it should terrify you, frankly. It should terrify you. It's also ironic that we are told that Iran, they can have nukes because they're a bunch of rabid fundamentalists, right? Religious fanatics. And at the same time, you are saying that Israel doesn't have to abide by international law. They don't have to even speak or acknowledge the fact that they have nukes. It's okay that they stole that from America. They stole weapons from America. It's okay that Jeffrey Epstein is running a blackmail ring on our politicians, was running a sexual blackmail ring via the Mossad. It's okay. And they don't have to answer questions about JFK and Jack Ruby, otherwise known as Jacob Rubenstein, and his involvement. We just have to accept that whatever they do, no matter how toxic and horrible and demonic it is, it's perfectly acceptable because God is going to bless you.
Because of Israel. Like, hey, man, you go ahead and let hell of children and women get killed. It's all right, man. Look, as long as for Israel, God gonna bless you. I mean, bro, you can go ahead and let this country break laws and all, and I mean, world.